There we go. Okay. My name is Karen Blisard, and I do liverworts. Uh, I study under Barbara sometimes, and but I thought that we would do something very basic and very practical, which is to talk about collecting bryophytes, and then once you find a moss or a liverwort. And then what do you do with it? And then after you've collected it, then what do you do with it? So this is going from in the field to underneath the microscope. It's covering that interval there. Okay. So the first thing you want to think about is, where do you collect these things? Mosses are almost everywhere. I can currently name a few African countries that don't seem to have any mosses, but other than that, they're found all over the world. Mosses are much more common in watery places, humid places, places with water, which kind of leaves a lot of Africa out. Um, and they're more rare than where there's not water, where it's dry and arid. But nonetheless, you can still find, especially some arid adapted liverworts are quite common in deserts. However, they do tend to show up after it rains. So, um, what do you need to have to be able to collect these? If you are collecting in your own backyard, then you obviously don't need anything. If you're collecting on someone else's private property, you should be polite and talk to them and say, hey, you've got a really cool moss growing underneath this tree. Can I have a little piece of it? And they'll generally say, sure, why not? If you are collecting in in public land, like a national park or a state park or a national monument, you need to have permission. You need to have a permit. So getting a permit is beyond the scope of this presentation, but you there's different ways of getting permits. Permits say different things, but you do need to give that some thought so that you don't just go out in the middle of the national forest and pick up 8 or 10 pieces of bryophyte and stick them in your bag and take them home. You really need to have a permit to do that sort of thing. Now, sometimes it's more comical than anything else. Russ went to a national forest, a national forest place, and said, I want to go collect some bryophytes and some mosses. And they said, well, we don't have any mosses here, which of course, of course was silly. They just didn't know they had mosses there. So you need to think about where you are and what is appropriate for you to be able to collect these things. Now, that being said, it's always more fun to collect in a group. And this is our group. I don't even remember where we were, but anyway, there we are. You have to be prepared to get dirty. You have to get down on the ground. And for some of us, that's not a trivial prospect. So sometimes you sit on a rock and collect it. We'll go over substrates where you actually find mosses. We'll go over those in a few minutes. But you need to, it is, as I said, more fun to collect in a group. You have to go where the mosses are. They will not come to you, and you have to like pick them up. You'll need a loop. You'll need some packets, and I'll show you the packets later. I'm going to make the assumption that all of you know what a loop looks like. If you don't, we can show you one at the end. So here's a moss. Here's a clump of moss that was growing on the side of the road, alongside the dirt road where I live. And that's a pretty good size piece of moss. It's probably 3 inches by 1.5 inches. And so there it is. And it's dry. because
It's surrounded on.
well, of course it's surrounded on. It's common, but for illustrative purposes, there's a piece of moss. Now, how big a sample do you actually need to take? If you pick up like half of this moss, this is half of the moss, looking at it a little more closely. I'm sorry, the center of it's not very well focused, but it's the way it goes. Do you need this big a piece of sample? Well, you need to think about what you've got. If it's something that you know exactly what it is, you look at that and say, oh, this is ceratodon, but I'm doing an inventory along my road and I need to take a little piece of it. I would probably take about 10% of that and put that in my packet and keep it. If it is something I don't know what is, and I'm thinking, well, I may have to send this to somebody to get a second opinion on or so forth, then I might take a quarter of that. I certainly don't need this big a piece, but it depends on the circumstances. The other thing you need to know when you're thinking about sample size is it rare? Is it common? If this covers the whole hillside, you can probably take as much as you really like to. If it's a little bitty piece and you have no idea what it is, you might want to take only a half of it or a fourth of it, so that you don't extirpate it from its circumstances, but you also want to have enough to be able to look at it and to be able to send it to somebody smarter than you if you need to do that. You also need to consider whether it's rare or it's common. Is it a little bitty piece of something? Then you don't want to take as much. If it, like I said, if it's covering the whole hillside, you can take a big piece. And if you're going to do special studies on it, biochemical studies, HPLC studies, any kind of study where you need quite a bit of stuff, DNA studies, then you may need to take a bigger piece than if you're just going to look at it under the microscope. So here's Russ with a great old big piece of moss. I'm guessing that this, I don't actually remember where this was, but I'm guessing it was pretty common, but he doesn't probably need to take this whole piece. He probably picked it up, got his picture taken with it, and put 90% of it back. And if you pick up a piece of moss and then you put it right back where it started from, it's probably fine. It's probably going to just keep on growing and not even notice that it had a little Ferris wheel ride or something like that. It's probably going to be okay. Now, you've picked up a piece of moss that you really like and you want to know what it is. Now, what are you going to do with it? Well, you're going to put it in a packet, or under certain circumstances, maybe you want to put it in a tiny little paper bag. But you need to have something to keep it safe until you get it home, and you need to have something where you can record information on it about where you collected it, what the circumstances were, what the terrain was like, and so forth. So you need to have some sort of packet. Now, packets can be made out of a variety of things. We make our packets out of just printer paper. Actually, we make them generally out of scrap paper that has something on the other side of it. And so we turn it over and print our little template out on the flip side, and then you have used that piece of paper for two things, and you're being sort of ecologically sensitive. Now, what is on your packet? Okay, so here's what it looks like when it's been folded, and this is what you fill out, and you carry well, Russ actually has at least 2 or 3 of these in his pocket, just in case he runs into something that he needs it for. If you're out collecting on a collecting trip, then you probably take along 3 or 4 shoe boxes, a shoebox full of packets and 3 empty shoe boxes to put the filled packets in. And if you're clever, you've got the packets arranged printed out like this, so that all you have to enter is the date. You can circle the county, you can circle the state, You can, if you have an idea of where you're going, you can just circle you can print out new ones and put your destinations on it, and you can, just circle those. You have a place where you put the GPS. And of course, and all of you have GPS tests or some sort of GPS thing on your phone, so that you just pop that up and print it on your packet. Then you fill out for the habitat, whether it's light, whether it's in full shade, whether it's dry, whether it's in aquatic, and what the substrate is. So in summary, the information that you want to collect is the date and the location, the habitat, which is, is it in farmland? Is it in forest? Is it in grassland? Is it on the side of the road? The substrate, is it on rock? Is it on dead wood? Is it at the base of a tree? Is it on soil? And the associated species. Now, if you're not a botanist, the associated species could kind of give you some trouble. So I try to take a botanist with me so that I know. Otherwise, I just write, pinyon pine or, whatever I know, because I'm not a botanist. Now, the reason that you make collection packets and permanent packets is because the collection packets sometimes get used up. And so this is a collection packet that Russ brought home earlier last week. And when they get wet, they kind of get, they tend to fall apart. And so you try to put it into something else that's going to be more permanent. Now, Kelly uses waterproof paper for his packets. And so he doesn't have this problem. His packets don't fall apart like ours do. The problem that he has is if he has to open them up and let them dry out, or the specimen will mold. So there's all different things you can use to make your collection packets with. We tend to use scratch paper. Kelly buys nice waterproof paper. Just whatever works for you is fine. But you want to have all this stuff printed out so that you get the GPS, you get the habitat. Is it in shade? Is it light? Is it in water? The substrate, is it on a rock? Is it on soil? Is it on wood? And whatever else information you think you'll need, you write on the packet. Then after you have looked at it and figured out what it is and made your identification, you're feeling all good about it. Oops, I'll come back to that in a minute. Then you make up a permanent packet that's made out of heavier paper that can go into your herbarium. It has all the nice stuff on it, all the information, and is not, doesn't suffer from water degradation of carrying a whole bunch of wet packets in a satchel. Now, sphagnum is kind of a special case. Sphagnum is long and tall. And so instead of just dropping a big chunk of sphagnum into your packet, you want to stretch it out and make it, separate it into individual plants to some extent. Otherwise, you can't get them untangled when they get dry. So sphagnum wants to be treated very carefully. Now, we don't have a lot of sphagnum in New Mexico. I think you have more in Colorado. I don't know how much you have in Arizona. It should be a goodly amount in California. But sphagnum is a special case, and we always get real excited when we collect some sphagnum. All right, well, so that's pretty much about packaging, collecting and packaging. And just in case you're tired of all this plant stuff, here's a Java kingfisher just for just provide a little bit of variety in our evening's meeting. Okay, any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Do you have to worry about the packets getting squished, especially if the moss gets dried out? It seems like they could you could end up with a big powdery mess when you get home.
They generally hold together pretty well, and you're going to want to dry them out before you put them in your herbarium. And so what we do, like say we're on a big collecting trip, we've gone to Colorado to meet up with Chuck and Stacy, Barbara and Mo, and we've collected a whole bunch of packets, and then we take them back to Stacy's house or our hotel room or wherever it is, and we spread them all out, open them all up, spread them all out, and let them dry out. You're not going to want to put them underneath, say, an anvil or a PDR or any of those things. But I don't guess we've ever had any problem with that. They hold together pretty well.
You know, we put them in a shoebox and they don't really get squished when they're vertical like that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and so like, don't throw away your shoe boxes. And it's nice if you have a friend who has a son who really likes shoes. It's like it has like 7,000 shoe boxes in the front closet, and then you can have plenty of them. Okay, other questions? Yeah, you do need to dress appropriately. When you're going out collecting, you may need to wear boots or wellies, is that what we call them? And it's also possible to collect overseas and bring them back with you. But I guess that's probably a topic for another evening.
I asked a question in the chat about the effect of ink if you're using printer paper that's already been printed on one side. And I also wondered if you should use a waterproof type pen when you take your notes or pencil so that that ink can't affect the moss.
We haven't had any trouble with print on the other side of the paper leaching off onto the moss. I have not noticed that. However, it is definitely best to have a pencil along to write on your packets, because if you just use a regular ballpoint pen or even worse, a Sharpie or something, it may well become illegible, and then you don't have your information at all. And let's see, I was going to do are there any other questions? Okay, I was going to do a packet folding demonstration. Let's see if I can you help me with that? Where am I? All right, so here's my piece of paper, and on the back side of it, it has some sort of itinerary, and on the front side, it has the printed sheet. So the way that you fold these is you fold it in thirds, and depending on how you've got it printed up, and I've put little markers on the sides of ours so that we know where to fold it on the inside. So you fold the bottom of it up, you fold the sides across. Whoops. And then you fold the top down. Now, folding packets is very tedious. And so it's a nice thing to occupy yourself when you're driving to your moss collecting site, to just take along a whole stack of packets and fold them. Stacy and I have done that together in the back seat on several occasions. And one of Russ's Christmas presents every year is a shoebox full of folded packets.
That's sweet.
So, it makes a nice Christmas gift. But it's actually a pretty tedious proposition. Okay, any other questions? Okay, Stace, back to you.